Hey there folks, how you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with any background racket that you might hear throughout this production. We are on location where life happens, and sometimes there's stuff going on out there that interferes with what's going on in here. That being said, no ammunition out here today. We do have a prop rifle with a chamber flag in it. We're not even going to touch the gun other than that. We're going to be focusing on this rifle scope, which is mounted in rings, but it is not attached to a firearm today, folks. YouTube manual content reviewers. This is just an optic, that's all it is. And all we're going to do with this is I'm going to show you how to set the zero stops on the scope, and we're going to talk about how those work. Now, if you purchased a rifle scope like this, more than likely it came with a manual in a little bag like this one. And I will show you here on page 9 of the manual how it says to set the zero stops on the scope. Now, let's back up for a second. Before you go trying that and you're pulling on the turrets of your new scope, take a look around the edge here and see if yours has set screws around the edge. I will put up an image of that here so you can see what I'm talking about. If your rifle scope has these, then the instructions in this manual will not work for you. There was a change in manufacturing somewhere along the line, and some of the manuals did not have the same instructions as what the ones that are coming out right now have. So, spoke to the folks at Crimson Trace. They sent me this, which is the modified, enhanced, newer version of the instructions, which shows that there are two different types of turrets. Now, if you have the other type of turrets, you just zero your scope, then you pick them up, you line them up to zero, you push them back down, and then you can run them up and down and return to zero by lining up the zero mark with the hash on the back of the scope. Now, if you have one like this, folks, I'll show you how you fix it. It's super simple. Run down to Hazard Front, get yourself a set of metric wrenches here. You're going to go with the one that says 1.5 millimeter. Now, I will give you the caveat that on this rifle scope, both the turret set screws and the zero stop screw on the inside are the same size, 1.5 millimeter. On that rifle scope, the turret set screws were 1.5 millimeter, and the zero stop thing on the inside had a different size Allen wrench. Just be aware that that could be a thing. So get yourself a set like this and you'll have no problem. As I mentioned before, you will start with a 1.5 millimeter Allen key like this one. If you look here along the edges of your turret cap, you will see some recessed Allen screws. There are 3 of them around the circumference of the cap. It does not take a great deal of effort to loosen these, and you don't have to take them out all the way. I give them 2 or 3 revolutions to loosen them up, and that seems to be enough to take that cap off. Now, you're going to do this once you have already zeroed your rifle scope. If I didn't mention that before, that's important. Have your scope zeroed, ready to go. You take these screws loose, and you can pull the cap straight up off of the turret. Be mindful, there's a little bit of grease, looks like some lithium or silicone grease inside the cap, and also around this O-ring at the edge. I'll try to pinpoint that there for you. I would recommend not touching that if at all possible. It probably is there to keep moisture and or dust out of the turret cap, so probably pretty important. Now, I'll show you here. I've got to turn this around so you can see it. This lock ring is designed so that once you have your scope zeroed at whatever distance you want it zeroed at, you loosen this screw, which on this particular scope is the same 1.5 millimeter as the turret cap screws. On the other scope that I have that is mounted on the rifle, this is a different size. I don't remember if it was one size larger or smaller. Just know that there could be a variant there. But once you loosen the set screw, it allows you to rotate this lock ring down to where it sits firmly on the base of the turret. What that allows you to do, once you lower it down and retighten it, when you rotate the elevation turret to dial up for a distant shot, now it gives you a positive stop. When you rotate it back down, it will come to rest at just about the exact spot it was at when you zeroed the rifle scope. Now, I do recommend using a torque wrench whenever possible. These little screws are smaller than what my Wheeler fat wrench has bits to fit, and I really don't think you need to put more than about maybe 10 or 15 inch-pounds on these. So the rule of thumb that I use is to grasp the short end of the wrench and just do a 2-finger. When you start to feel it pressing pretty good on your fingers, you've probably got it tight enough. That has served me well in the past. So now I will show you. If you see here, there's a vertical line as well as some marks indicating revolutions. You have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. On your turret cap, find your 0 hash mark, press it back down, and line it up. I gotta turn that for a second so I can see it. You'll line it up with the vertical mark on the actual turret. Once you have it lined up, go ahead and I've got to turn this where I can see it. Apologize for that. Go ahead and retighten the 3 set screws around the top of the cap. You want to tighten these down to where they're snug. Do not strip them out. That would be a bad day if you stripped them out. So I would say, again, probably 10 to 15 inch-pounds. If you're holding the wrench in 2 fingers, when it starts to turn the meat of your finger white, that's probably enough. I really don't see any reason to put more on it than that. Okay, so now that we have our elevation turret set with the 0 stop set, assuming that the rifle is zeroed at 100 yards and you wanted to dial up, you'll see here that we made an entire 24-minute of angle revolution coming up. We're back to 0 again. And you'll see that we had an additional 18 inches of elevation in the turret before we hit the maximum. Now, you'll notice that we are, I'll turn that so you can see it, we're on the 4th horizontal hash mark there, which also indicates that the scope cap is fully elevated. Now, we'll run it back down to our 0 and see if everything lines up the way it should. And you'll see there that it does. I will illustrate how the return to 0 works in real time on this rifle scope. Now, I will mention to you that for the windage, the 0 set works in much the same way. However, the windage adjustment does not have the lock ring on the inside, and the reason for that is you may need to go past 0 in order to adjust for windage, depending on the direction that the wind is blowing. So it is important to take note on the windage turret at which hash mark you are lined up at 0. and then you will visually have to return it to that same hash mark to re-zero the scope. So hopefully that made sense to you. If you have any questions about it, be sure you reach out to me. I'd be glad to try to help you answer those. So now what that does is it allows you to make elevation adjustments with your scope if you're dialing in your shots. And then if you want to return to your 200-yard zero so that you can go back out to the deer blind with it or whatever, you just rotate it back around to where that zero lines up. But now how does this work? Well, let's go over to the range and see. I fired the first shot, ran the turret up and down a little bit, and fired a second shot. Now you'll see there that while it's not a stellar group, it got it right back down where we wanted it to be, and I continued to do that a few more times. I have messed around with these zero stop turrets in the past, and oftentimes they'll get you close, but they will not get you spot on back to where you were. In this case, this one was pretty good. I'd say there's a margin of error of probably less than 1 MOA, and that's pretty darn good. The windage turret works in much the same way. However, with the windage turret, there's no zero set screw on the inside. You have to rely on lining up the zero visually. Also, I'll turn it here so you can see there are revolution marks on here to indicate how many complete rotations of the turret you've made in or out. That really comes in handy for return to zero purposes. So anyway, I hope you were able to get something out of this. If you have any questions about it, by all means reach out to me or reach out to customer service over at Crimson Trace. They're super folks. They're really good at getting back with you right away if you have a question about something like this. And for those of you that did not realize that Crimson Trace makes rifle scopes, if you are watching this, then you probably know that Crimson Trace has a long and reputable history producing quality laser products for the firearms industry, such as the LS-250 laser saddle shown here on the Mossberg Shockwave. But did you know they now have a full line of quality accessories to include both red and green laser sights, tactical lights, electronic sights, and rifle scopes to rival other premium brands on the market today? From the novice outdoorsman to the tactical professional, Crimson Trace offers a wide range of budget-friendly to premium rifle scopes to meet your operational needs. All Crimson Trace products are backed by their no-hassle limited lifetime warranty. Check them out now and use promo code J10 to save 10% off your next purchase.